game. A three-pointer in the final seconds, lifting the Irish to a one-point win. Carolina now 3-12 in the ACC. And after the game, Coach Roy frustrated.
Well, you got two choices. You can compete your butt off, or you can get up in the fetal position and curl up and start crying. I'm not going to freaking do that. We're going to, excuse me. I apologize to everybody. We're going to freaking compete.
Doris, your thoughts?
I watched that game last night. They had the looks of a team that's lost a lot of close games, and confidence is on shaky ground because they were in complete command until about 4 or 5 minutes, and they let go of the rope.
I guess I've had it wrong all this time. When things go bad, I tend to just curl up in a fetal position.
It doesn't work for you. It's one of the choices.
Yes, my philosophy is always let's just pretend nothing bad is happening and hope it goes away by itself. No, we'll see if that works. Anyway, with that, we welcome you to another hour of Get Up. We come to you as always live from above the Heineken River Deck at Pier 17, and we're going to be busy for the next hour. Here's what we have. We're going to get up with Tua. Wait until you hear where he's expected to land now, and what does it mean for one of the NFL's most accomplished quarterbacks. Mel, ready to go. Plus, did you hear what Joe Burrow said and didn't say about being the #1 pick? Is he about to pull an Eli? It sure sounds like he's thinking about it. And then, theater of the absurd. Altuve shows the world his tattoo. Now, what is the world supposed to do about it? We'll talk to Mark Teixeira right off the top as we begin this hour of Get Up right now with the latest on the baseball scandal. Carlos Correa may have inadvertently created another controversy for the Astros over the weekend when he told MLB Network that part of the reason Jose Altuve didn't want his jersey ripped off was because of a bad tattoo. Well, Altuve addressed the ink yesterday.
When did you get your tattoo? When? Middle of the season in San Francisco. How many sessions did it take to finish the tattoo?
2. So, as for the tattoo, reporters in the clubhouse yesterday reported seeing Altuve without his shirt on with a tattoo that reads Melanie, which is his daughter's name. Meanwhile, in this photo of Altuve from the 2019 World Series, you can make out the M near his left collarbone. So maybe Correa was telling the truth. And what is for certain is that I cannot believe this is where the conversation is in Major League Baseball. But that's where we find ourselves, and we find ourselves with Mark Teixeira ready to go. So, Tex, in just the last couple of days, this thing has spiraled from something they were trying to control to something that is completely out of control. Let's start with the Astros. What has been your reaction to the way they have handled all of this?
Well, the last week has been an unmitigated disaster for the Astros, and I think they should be embarrassed, frankly. First of all, the non-apology on Thursday, and then you actually had Astros players going on the offensive. Guys like Carlos Correa calling out other players, saying that Altuve didn't do anything, and, you know, Beltran's a great guy, and the Astros deserved their World Series. They didn't cheat. It's like they're trying to play both sides of this, trying to say that they're sorry, but their actions are proving that this team does not care what you think. They don't care what the fans or anybody else thinks about them. They are going to go through this and just pretend that nothing bad happened.
All right, so there are a lot of people who are angry at them, not only fans, but players across the sport who have voiced their displeasure with the Astros and have also gone after Major League Baseball and Commissioner Rob Manfred for the way he has handled this situation. One of those, Justin Turner, who faced the Astros in the 2017 World Series. Here's what he said yesterday.
I mean, I don't know if the commissioner's ever won anything in his life. Maybe he hasn't, but the reason every guy is in this room, the reason every guy is, you know, working out all off season and showing up to camp early and putting in all the time and effort is specifically for that trophy, which, by the way, is called the commissioner's trophy. So for him to devalue it the way he did yesterday is just tells me how out of touch he is with the players in this game. And you know, at this point, the only thing devaluing that trophy is that it says commissioner on it.
They cheated, and you know, it's tough. You're taking the trophy away, taking the rings away. I think they should definitely do something. To cheat like that and not get anything, it's sad to see.
So again, that's Mike Trout, who almost never says anything about anything. He's been outspoken about this. Justin Turner, of course, going after Rob Manfred in a big way. Where do you think the commissioner can go from here dealing with the outrage across his sport?
Well, Rob Manfred is in an impossible spot right now. He just wants this to go away, much like the steroid scandal of 15 years ago. MLB just wants this to go away, but it's not going to. Unfortunately, with comments like that, you have very well-respected players going after the commissioner, going after Major League Baseball and the Astros. And let's remember this. If the commissioner would have tried to suspend individual players as a part of this investigation, the MLB union would have fought this tooth and nail. It would have gotten ugly. So I think the commissioner needs to actually defer to, maybe the general public or Congress and say, almost like the Mitchell report, let's have an independent investigation to really figure out what happened, because we still, based on the last week and some of the Astros saying that nothing bad happened while they apologized, I think we need to have an independent investigation to get down to the bottom of this. And I think Rob Manfred would really appreciate that, because he wants this off his plate.
And he was involved in all of that stuff with steroids, and so many of us who covered that will draw parallels. And I saw in your notes this morning, Tex, the idea that in some ways this for the sport is worse than the steroid scandal was. I'd love you to explain why that is.
Well, first of all, the steroids, every team in baseball had certain amount of players on steroids. I played on 4 different teams during my career. I'm sure, whether it was tested positive or guys that were on steroids, I'm sure every team in baseball during that era had players that were cheating. This was one team, and now maybe we'll see what happens with the Red Sox, but if it's 1 or 2 teams that are cheating to gain this advantage, and by the way, as a hitter, if you told me what was coming, that's much more important than me being strong or getting through an injury using steroids. I would much rather know what was coming by somebody stealing steins than someone giving me steroids that, by the way, if I swing and miss or if I pop up because I don't know what's coming, the pitcher is still in a good spot. When the pitcher has a disadvantage because the player at the plate knows what's coming, that's bad for baseball.
All right, Mark Teixeira, outstanding to see you. Thank you for your perspective on all this, and obviously this is something we need you to stay close, because I don't think it's going away anytime particularly soon. That's Tex with us here. Meanwhile, let's get back to Mel's latest mock draft.
Yeah, we revealed Mel Kiper's brand new mock draft 2.0 here, and we begin with the quarterbacks because there's a little shuffling there. No movement with Joe Burrow, as you might expect. He's still got him at 1 and the Bengals after a historic season at LSU. Now, Tua Tagovailoa moves from number 5 to the Dolphins to number 3 to the Lions. The Lions say they're not shopping quarterback Matthew Stafford, but there is some buzz. According to Mel, they like Tagovailoa. Miami would still need a quarterback, so Mel has the Dolphins taking Justin Herbert with the 5th pick, meaning there would be 3 quarterbacks selected in the top 5. So rounding out that top 5, Kiper has star Ohio State defensive end Chase Young going 2nd overall to Washington, and his teammate cornerback Jeff Okudah going 4th to the New York Football Giants. In the bottom half of the top 10, Kiper sees Clemson do-it-all linebacker Isaiah Simmons going 9th to the Jaguars. As for the quarterbacks in his top 5, though, Mel says there are real questions about 2 of them. Take a listen to this.
It's really going to get down to the evaluation process, and we're still a long way away from April 23rd. How do these teams feel about Tua with the medical? We'll know a lot more by then regarding medical. And Herbert, whether you can transform what we saw in terms of the inconsistency, but he has the great talent. Can you mold him into a big-time quarterback? Those are the decisions that will impact the top 5 of the draft.
That was a piece of Mel, who was live with us an hour ago. So to be clear, Burrow is in a separate category, and we will talk about what he may want coming up in a few minutes. But as far as the draft is concerned, Mike Tannenbaum, the point you are making is it really starts at number 3.
Absolutely. And what Detroit does is fascinating, because right now, Bob Quinn, the general manager, and Matt Patricia are trying to save their jobs. Matt Stafford, they were playing good football with him last year. He comes back healthy. They add a blue-chip defensive player like Jeff Okudah, the corner from Ohio State. Short term, that's what's best for them. However, for the Ford family and for the next 10 years for the Detroit Lion franchise, you should take Tua. He's a great talent when healthy. You give him time to rehab, and you may be sitting there with the next Drew Brees.
Put it in perspective, because so many people have been caught up in just how incredible Joe Burrow was. But Tua was a better passer than Joe Burrow. If you just look at passing efficiency, not an overall better quarterback, that takes into account running, but Tua's a generational type of talent. To your point, Mike T., Tua isn't just another quarterback that might come in and help you win a couple games. He's a transcendent type of talent. In 4 less starts than Joe Burrow, he had 9 more passing touchdowns. So even if you take into account Tua getting hurt, I still think he's worth it. So the Lions at number 3, either trade Stafford and acquire Tua or trade the pick, because somebody's jumping into that top 5 to go get that bad man.
Graziano, how would that happen if we're living in this crazy world where Matt Stafford ends up going somewhere else? Is this something that the Lions could do easily, so to speak?
They would take a huge salary cap hit this year, roughly at least $21 million. It gets complicated because of different option bonuses in the contract. At least a $21 million cap hit if they traded him this year. It would represent a dramatic change in the Lions' plans. When they announced late last season that they were going to bring back Coach Matt Patricia, GM Bob Quinn, they were saying the idea was we're going to stay the course. We think we have a good plan or a good group that we can win with. It would be a big change in plans. It would mean, if they were to do that, that they are convinced that Tua Tagovailoa is going to be healthy, that he's going to be the same player he was before his injury, and that their best play, as Mike said, is to think long term. I don't get the sense that they're there at this point, but I think it's more likely, as Acho says, that pick is for sale.
Mike T, let me just throw this at you. By the way, Matt Stafford just celebrated his 32nd birthday, so he's got plenty of time left.
Right.
So to me, he becomes a very intriguing possibility. But if you're the Lions, you're talking about drafting Jeff Okudah. The value at the 3rd spot is Tua. So if you decide you're not going to take the quarterback, you're going to trade out of it, right, and amass whatever it is, someone, maybe the Dolphins, maybe the Panthers, who knows. But someone's going to give you a king's ransom for Tua Tagovailoa at 3, right?
Absolutely. And what you try to do is you try to play the Dolphins at 5 and the Chargers at 6 against each other. You may be able to get the same player, Jeff Okudah, 2 spots back and pick up a massive amount of picks. So they're really sitting in a good position, Greeny. And really, if Tua is as healthy as Laura, you were saying he is, that's great news for Detroit, because either way, they either get a healthy quarterback or the king's ransom. It's an ideal situation for them, and hopefully they have 2 teams competing for him.
Well, and look, there's still such a wait and see on exactly how healthy he is, but I think the important thing, and this is something that, you may not hear Tua say himself, but it's something that's been represented from his people and from what they care about. It's important for him to be able to sit a year. I think there's not a great success level if you're seeing him have to go in immediately and contribute, and the next time that we see him play is going to be, him being hit by an NFL defender as opposed to what was happening at the college level. You just want him to have that time to wait in the wings a little bit.
I think what nobody's talking about, and Orlovsky actually shot me this note, there could be a situation where you have a team trade up for Tua, a team who knows their quarterback's on one of their last legs, whether it's the Pittsburgh Steelers or a team like that, trade up into that 3 spot, get Tua, bench Tua for a year, give Tua some time to grow. My thing is, in this day and age, 2020, the NFL, so win now league, I don't know that any team has the luxury to draft a quarterback in the top 5, let alone at number 3, and put him on the bench for you.
But we just saw that with the Super Bowl winning Kansas City Chiefs. They traded up for Patrick Mahomes.
But that wasn't as early, because I was thinking about Mahomes and even Rodgers.
Right,
that wasn't the same.
Right, but you also have something known as the PUP rules, which is you could draft Tua, and you would make him ineligible for at least the first 6 games and play with a veteran quarterback.
Let me very quickly get to the Joe Burrow piece of this, because we mentioned it. He gave an interview to the Fort Worth Star-Telegram that has a lot of people sort of going back to the legendary Eli Manning forcing his way out of San Diego when he was drafted. This was something he said during a reception in Fort Worth when he got the Davey O'Brien Award, talking about his future. He said, I do have leverage. The Bengals have their process and I have my process. We haven't even gotten to the combine yet. There's a lot of things that happen leading up to the draft and a lot of information gathered. Now, Shefty has said on this program, there is no question the Bengals want to take Joe Burrow number 1. He's saying he has leverage. You've been around him a lot. Do you have any sense that he is inclined to want not to wind up in Cincinnati?
Well, look, I think it's pretty obvious by what he's not saying that apparently this is something that he might be thinking. Here's the thing. Like, wouldn't you guys, if you want to go to the Bengals, you go out and you say, yeah, I can't wait to be the number 1 overall pick. I'm honored to be in this position. So it's interesting, though, because we heard his dad not that long ago come out and say, absolutely, we're excited about the Bengals. We would be honored to be drafted by them. And now we're getting a little bit of a different feel here. I do think there's a little bit of smoke where there's fire here. And I just don't know how far it goes, though, Acho.
Here's my thing is, Joe Burrow need to stop playing. Because right now he's playing with house money. He couldn't have had a better year, Greeny. Remember, his junior year, I believe, or the year before last, it wasn't all that flashy. And now you come out, you have a star-studded year where everything goes right. Bengals are going to give you upwards of, what, $30, $35 million. Mike T, you know better than I. Joe Burrow, stop playing around because your last name isn't Manning. Take what you have and keep riding the current wave you have.
And fundamentally, he has no leverage. They could draft him. Now, he may not report immediately, but they will have his rights for at least a year until he has to sign a contract. So he really has no leverage.
One critical difference between this and the Eli Manning situation, at the time Manning was drafted, you could negotiate the #1 pick salary and contract. Now, under the current CBA, those contracts are all slotted. You know exactly what the #1 pick is going to make. If he were to have any leverage, it would have been, well, we'll drive a hard bargain on the contract. He doesn't. Mike is absolutely right. He has no leverage.
Right. He has no literal leverage. The leverage is all figurative because if you're the Bengals, do you really want the guy if he desperately doesn't want to be there? We'll see as this thing plays out. We're 2 months from the draft. Meanwhile, we're just a few days from the second half of the NBA season getting started. LeBron James is actually getting more rest than ever this year. We'll tell you why the Lakers should strongly consider giving him even more soon. Plus, a month from now, we will know what Tom Brady's plans are for the 2020 season. I will ask our friends to go full-on Nostradamus on TB12 as we continue to Get Up on ESPN.